Alright team, cheeky wee parking spot here with a nice view of the Auckland Sky Tower and the cheeky wee Royal Enfield Hunter 350. So I've just ridden this bike up the, 146 kilometres from Cambridge to here, and I'm off to see the new John Wick movie, but since I'm earlier, came down to West Haven for hopefully some nice pictures, and just thought I would tell you all about this. Oh, that's a first. Yeah, so Royal Enfield Hunter 350. Not gonna lie, the bike's got what? Let's see how many Ks it's got on it now. 366 Ks. And it's noticeably loosened up. Before it was a bit, to say the least, it was a bit uninspiring on the open road. But it happily cruised all the way up here along the expressway, which is 110 km/h speed limit, and she did fine. It was actually quite comfortable for the most part. It is anything but fast at open road speeds, but that's not what this bike's about. It's not an open road cruiser or a tourer. It's a city bike. So I've come to the city to ride the city bike, and it really is in its element here. It's the gearing, the way the engine's torque comes on, it just makes it such a more engaging experience to bring it here rather than ride it around out in the countryside near Cambridge. So, like I say, this bike's still being broken in, but I am really quite appreciating this. The styling of this bike is on point. It looks fantastic. Royal Enfield's done a really good job here, and it's yeah, it's a great little entry level bike. From about $7,500 is what this bike is priced from, which is peanuts. I can't think of any other bikes that are cheaper, to be honest. None that look as good as this bike. It's got that classic British roadster look to it, but it doesn't have the scary performance of something like a Triumph, which of course Triumph currently do not have a Lunar approved modern classic or roadster in their entire lineup. That could change by the end of the year, but right now, if you want a British styled roadster, the Enfield's basically it. Alright, there's getting enough space there for me. So, not going to lie, I am not used to riding in the big city. I did some lane splitting on the way up here, and yeah, another thing about the Enfield made more sense. The narrow bars, I'm not going to lie, they're a bit rubbish, the mirrors, but everything being so narrow, it makes the lane splitting a breeze, and because this bike's so easy to just manage on and off the clutch and everything, it was quite confidence inspiring. And yeah, I've got a bad history with lane splitting, particularly falling off while lane splitting, so I don't tend to do it much these days. But I'm pretty happy with how the little Enfield went. So, performance wise, 20.2 horsepower and 27 newton meters of torque. It's not going to win any drag strip races. Traffic light drags, it can get off the mark nice and quick. In somewhere like this, you're only doing 50 kilometers an hour and it gets up to speed nicely. It makes a lot of sense here. You know what, I can, because I'm on a bike, go around. Why bother sitting? I can just amble up the side. Okay, please don't run me over. There we go. Perks of a motorbike and the big smoke. Come on. Another great thing about this bike is the sound. That little, I think that's what they call the J series single cylinder. It sounds fantastic. Nice little rumbly single cylinder. But again, it's an Enfield. They are sort of the masters of the lambs category in terms of making easy to use transportation. And this thing is just so easy on and off the clutch. I haven't stalled it yet, despite how ham-fisted I've tried to be. Alright, I think I want to go this way. Yeah, there hasn't been a lot to not like about this bike, to be honest. One thing I find a bit not too sure about is the routing of the front brake line. The brakes actually work fantastically, and the levers feel quite premium, to be honest. They've got a nice feel to them. But the routing for that, it sort of loops out to the side, which, yeah, I don't know what's going on there. It seems a bit unsightly. It's a bit of gated forks though, which look quite nice. I have cranked up the preload on the rear shocks as well, which I found when I rode this around Lake Karapiro, I was tending to sort of bottom it out a bit. It wasn't particularly comfy, so cranked up the preload, I think 1, 2, 3 clicks, and yeah, felt quite good on the ride up here. I love the dash. It's that same simple dash that you get on, say, the Scram or the Meteor. It tells you the basics of what you need to know. Yeah, it doesn't have a tachometer, which it would be a nice thing to have, a tacho, let's be honest. But you can option the little Tripper navigation pod to sit next to that, which I was spending the money. It's what, $330, $350 to get the Tripper pod. It's a sub $8,000 bike. You may as well. Nice and handy. So, yeah, no tacho, but you got what? Trip A, Trip B, an odometer to flash through, a clock, fuel gauge, gear indicator. You don't really need much more than that. Switch gear, fills the hand quite nicely. Got hazard lights. I like the classically styled switches though. They give it kind of a bit of cool factor. The grips are quite chunky for such a small capacity bike. 348 cc's, and it feels like you got the grips from a Harley almost. Again, some people will like that. I found them very comfy on the ride up here. Yeah. So this bike's got 17-inch wheels front and back. It's a first for Enfield, I believe. The cast alloys. I think I may have flicked off a balancing weight or something off the front wheel. Started getting a weird vibration at around 70-80 k's in fourth gear before. So I'll have to investigate that once I've parked up the bike. But great looking wheels. Tyres are apparently not the most amazing. They're the CEAT brand that I think basically all Royal Enfields are optioned with from the factory now. And yeah, then nothing to write home about, but I haven't had any issues. But again, I've only been riding in beautiful sunshine. Fuel cap's actually quite a nice surprise. So I looked at this and thought that it would be your standard, unlock it and the whole thing comes out. But it's actually hinged, so you can hinge it open, which I rather like. There's no faffing about trying to put the fuel cap somewhere. Again, I think Royal Enfield really nailed the task when it came to styling this bike. Sort of, it's not a miniature Interceptor, it's its own unique style, though I wouldn't mind if they put this fuel tank on an Interceptor. It's more rounded, a bit more modern looking. Now I believe I can go up a bus lane, but I don't trust the dude in the Polestar. Get up here. Here, sneak in here because I can go down bus lane, so I'm on a motorbike. Theory. So 5-speed gearbox in this tight round city stuff. I've only really been using first and second gear. By the time you get into third, it's sort of the bike kind of goes into overdrive mode. Go to the front. So yeah, in and about town, this bike's really happy. I understand why they launched it in Bangkok now. It's sort of inner city, slow speeds. This bike's ace, and it's nice and nimble too. So I've been happily surprised by this bike. The more I've ridden it, the more the engine's loosened up, the more fun it's seemingly become. But yeah, that's the other thing. This bike is quite incognito. It's not in your face like a miniature super sport. It is quite a quiet achiever. It's got a nice carrot sounding little engine. But yeah. Anyway, I'm about to go make the most of free parking for motorcycles. And yeah, when I come back out to the bike, it will be time to see what this thing's like in the dark. So, I'll come back to you then. Bang. Before I go, that's quite nice. So I'm in the Civic car park, and each one comes with an ABIS tie down point, so you can lock the bike in place. Which that's quite cool. Didn't know they did that. Anyway, off to